Hello everybody and welcome back. This is Aaron and this is going to be a follow-up video to my Tyranid Vanguard Rising Leviathan Part 1 video. This is going to be just some second thoughts on that on the Dataslate after I've gotten a couple games in with them and a little bit more time to kind of think about it and do some list building and things like that. Now, at this point, I've gotten a game in, at least one game in, with every formation out of the 5 except for the gargoyle formation. And the reason is I only own 30 gargoyles, and I don't think the Dataslate really wants you to run 3 groups of 10. I mean, I think you can legally, but I don't think that's what it was made for. So we're going to touch on this one first. I've had a little bit more time to think about this and what I think about this formation. So let's go back over it. It requires just 3 spore mine cluster groups and 3 gargoyle birds, okay? So, again, like I said before in the other video, if you've seen it, the main benefit it gives you is the fact that you can take these gargoyle broods without them taking up fast attack slots. The other thing is, spore mines in groups of 6, that's only 30 points. So, you know, you can, and they're pretty decent, especially since the only special rule this gives you is that the spore mines can move or run or charge within 6 inches of it, and they move the full instead of half the distance. So if you've got a lot of spore mines that you want to field, or a lot of gargoyles, but you also want flyers, since you can't move them to troops, which is something I really wish they would have done with winged tyrants, this gives you an alternative to be able to take your flyers and to be able to take your gargoyles and your spore mines. So I haven't got a chance to use that yet. I am looking at picking up some more gargoyles soon, but right now it's not on the top of my list. So that's the gargoyle bio bomb brood. I haven't used that one yet. Okay, so let's just start from the top. The Lictor Forest brood. That's the one that's it's one group of lictors, and there has to be 5 lictors. In the same, and they form the same group. Again, I'm not going to go over all the rules for all these, so if you don't know them, check out the first Vanguard Dataslate video of mine, and it's got all the rules for all of them in there. Now, this one worked out pretty good. Well, it helped. We have a very friendly group that we play with. Usually, when we build our map, usually the map is a good mix of forests and ruins. When we sat down at the table, because they were already pre-built, and they were mostly just ruins all over the table. And I told them what I had, what I was trying to test, and because normally, you know, by the rules, you're supposed to build the army or build the terrain when you sit down. So he was pretty cool about the whole deal, and we traded out a few of the ruins for equal-sized forests and jungles, things like that. And there was like one in the deployment zone for each player, and he knew what I had, so it wasn't like I was trying to game the system or anything like that. But we had a forest in his deployment zone, a forest in mine, and like 2 in the middle, and they were spaced out in a way where each one was closer. Like if you had the map like this, we had like a forest in his deployment zone and a forest in mine, and then a forest, you know, and that way we kind of alternated them. So, but it worked out pretty good. But anyway, so these guys were, in my head, should have been hard to kill. You know, they get stealth instead, or shrouded instead of stealth if they're in a forest, which gives them a 3-up cover. And they can go to ground for a 2-up. I deployed close enough that I could get, you know, I got benefit from them, but in the end, just weight of fire can take them down, and they don't really give you any other bonuses. You know, you get the good thing is you get a big wall of lictors, so you can extend that the deep strike bubble they give you, and that's nice. But they died on turn 1. A 3-up cover save, even going to ground for a 2-up, it only goes so far when you're taking so much bolter fire, even with the cover. So I like it, but only a little bit more than normal lictor broods, which I rarely take anyway. Okay, so that's the forest brood. Still not overly impressed with that one. Okay, the Manufactorum Gene Stealers. Now this one worked out pretty good. This is the one that has the 5 groups of Gene Stealers at 5 mana apiece, and you can take. It doesn't say that you can't take Broodlords. It says you can include additional Gene Stealers. So I used this one, and I took I think like 3 Broodlords in it just because I wanted to try it. So I had like 5 groups of 5, and 3 of them had Broodlords, all of which of course have the horror. So, okay. Now this one, they can being able to infiltrate within 6 inches of enemy models if you're in a building or ruin, pretty handy. Yeah, they're going to die really quick because all they're going to have is a 5-up cover, 4-up if you're, obscured by the ruin. But, it's not going to cover a whole lot. But I did get to go first, infiltrating and being able to hit with that many horrors. And this was against Space Marines. Forcing that many pinning tests, it's pretty nice. Now, how useful is that going to be? It depends on the rest of your army. I had the Exocrines and things like that, so they're getting a cover save. But I don't know. I just don't know that pinning is useful enough in most cases, because there's so many armies that are fearless. And even like Space Marines with a captain, or a sergeant, they're leadership 9, right? So they're taking horror tests on a 7, which is average. Necrons are 10. So it's going to be really good against Guard, really good against Tau. But in the end, 5-man groups of Gene Stealers going to go down really quick. Okay, so Death Leaper's Assassin Brood. Now this one I really like. This one worked really well. This is the one where you get Death Leaper and then 5 individual lictors. I had this, and I've used this one twice now, and I used this once alongside the Manufactorum Gene Stealers in a game where I took 5 Broodlords. And I mean, I was all in on this. And because these guys give the -1, any model, any enemy unit within 12 with 1 or more suffers a -1 leadership penalty, along with Death Leaper's -D3 to 1 character, along with the -2 you get on the horror. If you don't come up against if you're not up against a fearless enemy, I mean, Necrons are on a 7 on the horror. Space Marines are on a 6. Imperial Guard are on a lot less. It worked really well. This one, if you're going to take lictors in one of the data slates or data sheets, this is the one to take. Mainly because you get to take Death Leaper and he doesn't eat up one of your HQ slots. You get 5 lictors. Yeah, they don't get stealth and they don't get a bonus to infiltrate like the other formations do in this one. But the fact that they're 5 individual groups plus Death Leaper, the big thing I used them for in that game was a leadership bomb. But in both games that I played them as, I also had 2 Molochs. And having that much coverage with the Gene Stealers. Now, granted, 5 Gene Stealers are going to die pretty quick. 5 Gene Stealers and a Broodlord. I mean, that's going to go down pretty quick. But I knew I was going to give up First Blood when I took that. I mean, it was a given. I was like, I'm taking this. I'm going to lose First Blood. No questions asked. But I had, let's see, that's 6 Lictor targets and 5 Genes. That's 11 targets on their side of the board that can all go to ground. And I had a winged... I think 1 winged Hive Tyrant in that game when I had both formations. And so if anyone had to go to ground, I could zoom him up there, and I took Dominion on him, so he had the bigger synapse range. And so I was able to zoom him around, and if they went to ground, I could zoom up. They became fearless and stood up, and it was like they didn't go down. So there's a lot of targets, and if you embrace the fact that you're going to give up First Blood, it's not that bad. The other good thing is because of having 6 of the lictors basically forming a line across the enemy, I could basically dictate where I wanted those Molochs to come up. Both of them came up in turn 2. I got kind of lucky, but it's a 3-up, so. But it worked out really well, and being able to just say, "Here, this is where the Moloch's hitting." Bikers are an iffy target normally because you could scatter, but being able to say, I want to hit these, I'm going to hit these 5, 4, whatever, how many bikers you're going to get, or I'm going to get this many tactical Marines, it's not going to scatter. it's fantastic. But they do have to be at a risk for that. So I really like the Death Leaper Assault Brood. In the game that it was by itself, without the Gene Stealers, it did just as well. With the Gene Stealers, I lost only like one Lictor, because the enemy focused fire on the Gene Stealers, because one Lictor in melee, not going to do a whole lot. But, if you charge in with 5 Gene Stealers and a Broodlord, even if 2 of them die to Overwatch, I mean, that's still, 9 Gene Stealer attacks, and however many the Broodlord gets, all rending, hitting on 3s, going first, along with the Lictor charging in with them. It's pretty scary, but I did lose, I think, 3 on turn 1 with the Death Leaper's Assault Brood when it was by itself. So, they're still Lictors, so it's important to know. But the only other thing with this formation I still haven't figured out, they have preferred enemy character and independent character. How does that work if you charge into a unit that has an independent character? Lictors aren't characters, so they can't challenge, which would have made sense. I mean, this Brood should have made him, that the Lictors can issue challenges. I mean, they're supposed to be assassins. But I understand how it works if they're in base to base with it and you can allocate the attacks, I guess. But I think they just should have made them be able to challenge, or accept challenges even. I think that would have been good. Anyway, okay, so the last one is the Broodlord Hunting Pack. Now, this one I got to use once so far, and I ran it full out. It's 3 Gene Stealer Broods. I maxed them out 20 mans, and I had the group with the Broodlord, also 20 man. It worked really well. I gave preferred enemy. I don't remember what I gave preferred enemy against. It was against this game was against White Scars, and being able to set up in ruins, as long as they're 6 inches away from the enemy, that's pretty nice. I've seen some arguments on this online, because reading over the rule again, it says units from this formation that arrive from reserve can be set up in an unoccupied building, period. Then there's a second sentence that says, alternatively, they can be set up in ruins terrain as long as they're set up more than 6 inches away from the enemy. The way the majority of people are reading this is that's 2 different abilities. It's not units from this formation that arrive from reserve can be set up in an unoccupied building, or they can be set up in the ruins terrain. The way that I'm reading it, and the way, until let's say FAQ, the way I'm going with it, is units that arrive from reserve can be set up in an unoccupied building. Alternatively, you can set them up in ruins terrain outside of the reserve thing, because there's, like I said, it could be FAQ'd either way. It's Games Workshop with the really crappy wording. But I did infiltrate, or I did reserve one of them into a building in that game. And they pretty much just held the building. There was an objective on top of the battlement, and I was going to jump up at the end of the game and grab it, but in the end we called that game just because it was going pretty good for me. But yeah, and a group of 20 Gene Stealers popping up that close to an enemy, yeah, they're going to have to weather a turn of fire, but 20 Gene Stealers in cover in a ruin, that's a 5-up, 4-up if they're obscured, which which they were. So 4-up cover save on 20 Gene Stealers. Some of them are going to get in, and they're gonna do a lot. The only problem is, then I had to take other troops. But regardless, so there you go. There's just some other thoughts. Hopefully the second one should be coming out. It's February 7th today. And I know they said it's supposed to be out this month. So I don't know if it's gonna. This one came out the 3rd Saturday. Tomorrow is that first wave of dwarfs that's coming out. The week after that, I haven't gotten the white dwarf for this week yet, and so I don't know if it has anything about it in there. It's not up on Black Library for pre-order yet. So hopefully, best guess 3rd week, because next Saturday, I know at least that the dwarf army book is supposed to be coming out. At least that's the rumor. I've got to check out White Dwarf today or tomorrow, whenever I get it, and see. But yeah, so hopefully the next part of Rising Leviathan will be out soon, because that's what I'm really hoping they do good, because it's supposed to be about the invasion, the way I'm guessing, and the third one's supposed to be about the feeder organisms. So this first one worked It made lictors, if you're going to take them, it gave you 2 better options to take it rather than 4 Sorgs and 3s. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're going to run lictors, run them in one of those 2 formations, especially if you already want to take Death Leaper. Gene Stealers, it's possible. I think Assault still, I think it's too weak to really make them viable. But if you really want to run them, I think you have 2 really good options. So those are just some second thoughts. I know I repeated myself a little bit, but I've been able to get some games in and reaffirm, because before it was just me reading it and theory crafting, but I've actually, you know, gotten to use them. So as long as you have opponents that are, you know, a little not power gaming, because if you're not setting up terrain before, like doing the book where you roll off and you place terrain, if you're not doing that and you're sitting down at pre-made terrain, like, you know, we do to save time, we get to the shop and there are 3 or 4 tables already put together, or we put them together and then we don't do a whole lot to them. Stuff like this with the specific terrain, if you're not setting them up individually before every game, then you need to work out something with your opponent and say, hey, I'm running this, there's no forests. If we did this by the book, I'd make sure to put forests down, maybe scratch build some Tyranid forests to bring with you, and say, here, we have some forests, I'd like to use this. I'm not going to put 8 of them in your deployment zone. Same thing with ruins. I'm not going to fill your deployment zone with ruins to give my Gene Stealers an advantage. I just need a delivery, you know, I need a, not a delivery method, what's the word, a diverse grouping of terrain. This is what I've got. So get out there, make some Tyranid terrain. Now, with that in mind, the specific, like the Forest Brood, I wouldn't take to a tournament. You could go all day at a tournament and not see a single forest on your tables. They could all be, you know, like Adepticon, Nova. I've seen a lot of the tables from those before, and they're either really sparse on terrain anyway, or they're all like line of sight blockers and just area terrain, no forest, stuff like that. You could get screwed. The Gene Stealers with the ruins, same kind of way, but ruins seem to be, at least from what I've seen, people seem to be putting a lot of ruins down, but forests seem to be pretty sparse. So take that as you will. Your mileage will vary based on local meta and, you know, attitude. So let me know what you think, and I'm still going to work on some battle reports. I haven't gotten a chance to play. I've played, I think, 5 games since this came out, and most of them were with this, and 3 of them were in one day, and I forgot my camera, and the other one I just didn't. I completely forgot. I had the camera, and I recorded like the first 2 turns, and then I forgot. I'm still working on those. I'm kind of making myself bigger notes. This weekend is a fantasy weekend, so I won't get any games in this week, but next week I should be able to get at least 3 games in, so hopefully we'll get some battle reports, and I will see you next time. Have a good one.